Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the American Mindgrind. I'm Jeff, and this is Jessica. And we felt that because of what's going on, we better film. We weren't scheduled to film until next week, but with the riots and everything going on, we wanted to jump in and kind of give our 2 cents and have that conversation. So, Jess, I assume you've had a chance to kind of take a look at everything that's going on and the chaos and the craziness, and just was curious about your thoughts on it.
Yeah, unfortunately, Eric couldn't make the call as well, but he might be joining later. Yeah, there's a lot to digest with all of this going on. It's really, my overall thought of everything is that it's just really sad and naive of people. I don't think destruction of property, especially like national monuments or city halls or police stations or any of that stuff is a good thing. And I can always say why, of course, later on when we kind of get more into it. But that's my thoughts. I see a lot of people posting like, oh, we had war, we went through wars. How do you think we, got our rights? Like, this is war. And I'm appalled at how so many people are reacting to it in a bad way, like in a negative, like for the rioting and for the looting and everything like that. I think in our last show, I even touched on that too, that I said, I'm all for a protest. I've protested before. I'm all for like speaking about rights, but it's not about that anymore. It is not about George Floyd. It's not about any of that now. It's a whole other world.
Well, they hijacked it, right? Like
Totally.
the people that are out there doing peaceful protest, like you said, you want to tell them, hey, you have the right to protest, and a lot of things have come because of protesting. A lot of good has come from the people voicing what they want and where they're at. But when the hijacking comes, the people who hate this country, and they want us to hate this country as much as they do, Antifa and the whole group of the far left, who they want to destroy the country. They don't want law and order. They're the ones out there that are breaking the windows and looting and shooting cops. And I saw one where they killed the business owner that was trying to defend the business. And there was even one after the rioting was done, they found a dog hanging from the fence. Like, it's horrible. And at that point, we have to fight back to defend our country. We can't lose our country. So there's Eric. Eric, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Your video might be a little on delay, but
SOS.
So we're talking about the riots and how crazy they are, and people should have the right to protest. But when it gets to the point where it's out of control, and the far left is fighting to make us hate this country as much as they hate this country, at what point do we fight back? What point do we bring in the National Guard and even the military? And Sean Hannity said it the other day. He said, if we bring in the military, you'll see carnage on our streets that we've never seen ever before. So my thing to the peaceful protest is you've been hijacked. Go home and stay home. Find another way. They're using you to destroy our country. So even though you're a peaceful protest, you're providing the vehicle for these people to do this. So if I were a parent of these kids, I would tell them to stay home and find another way.
Jeff, can you hear me?
Yeah.
I saw a guy run into a store like a bunch of cockroaches. He got 4 pairs of shoes, okay, Nike shoes, ran outside, face planted, spilled the 4 pairs of shoes, and 4 people took them from him. So he got nothing out of that whole thing. Rioting and looting it's insane. Tried. You're going to be.
Yeah. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, for those of you who don't know, Eric is up in Zion Canyon. So if he cuts out a little bit, He's just
he's
not
badass.
getting the best feed up there. So Eric, if you start cutting out, I'll just put mute on your mic. But you can hear us, right?
Perfect. I can hear you. That's more important. I'm happy to hear you guys. Go for it, guys.
All right. So Jess, where were we? What else?
So yeah, that's kind of funny that happened. It's almost like instant karma. And you saw that with your own eyes. Just nod. Well, just nod, just nod, Eric.
I saw the same clip that Eric's talking about. It's
Oh, it's a clip. Okay, it's a clip. Okay.
In fact, I was with Eric. Eric's like, "Did you go shopping, bro? You got some shoes, dude?"
Yeah. Well, I kept seeing those videos of people.
I did. Two pairs.
Crazy.
Yeah, it's nuts what's going on. It's
But
unfortunate.
back to the subject. Yeah, back to the subject. I have seen so many people posting pictures of the bricks sitting there. So they are sitting there. Who do you think dropped them off? Obviously, someone with Antifa is what they're saying, right? And that's just another part of instigation, to instigate the crowd. There's people out there rowling to instigate the crowd. You've seen the posts, you've seen the Craigslist ads for people to come up and, you know, do acting or whatever. And it's really scary and sad just to even think that the people who are protesting and then getting instigated to do that are not thinking logically, like, oh, we're protesting, we're not going out and destroying property. I feel like the people that think that's okay, and hey, that's my opinion, you know, that's my opinion, but there's so many people that are like, yeah, destroy it, blah, blah, blah. And it's so disrespectful to people. People are dying over it. People are getting injured. It's absolutely insane. It's a war on our streets between our civilization. It's really sad.
Yeah.
Did you guys see the Metro cop that got shot in the back of the head? The story yet?
Yeah,
Yes.
here in Las Vegas.
The suspect was
Crazy.
taken into custody, you know, and there was another shooting as well. I mean, you know, there's shootings all over the place, but it's just insane how many people are posting up, you know, people getting hurt and killed. It's like, let in the light or let in the dark, and people are just not seeing the big picture of everything.
Eric, did you see how they caught the guy that did the shooting with facial recognition?
No, I did not. I would have liked to know details on that.
So these guys that are looting and rioting and they think that they're getting away with everything, they keep arresting them. They knock on their door the next day. So several years ago, they tested facial recognition at the Super Bowl, and they were able to find a huge percentage of the people just by a picture of their face. It does a search through their database. You know, when you get your driver's license, they have your picture.
Sure.
And, you know, your Facebook, all your social media has your picture, and the technology is able to go find you. Then they match your name with your phone and who your carrier is. And then they ask your phone carrier, where was this guy at 7:45 last night? And then they're like, yeah, we got him, guys.
Yeah, we give our permission to do that through all of our apps every single time. There's been multiple updates lately as well. I don't know if you guys saw that for the COVID recognition too. If you've been around people with COVID, it'll, you know, in the proximity of people.
Tracing.
Yes, the tracing. And you have to give permission on your phone to update. It's probably recording my voice right now. And we're being but no, seriously, this is crazy stuff, you know? The facial recognition is a real thing.
And nobody reads the fine print anymore, right?
Yep. Jess.
Yes.
They're hiring people at like $20 an hour to be tracers. You work from home. It's a terrific opportunity. About 60,000 to start, guys. People can be hired to do it. Did you guys hear that?
No, that's insane.
Yep.
That's
It's going to be a blown up industry. They're going to have to you got to keep track so you can recognize a hot spot real quick, shut it down as quick as possible.
wow.
Well, and get it under control. So tracers are going to be like heroes behind the scenes. It's going to be a great industry to be in. They're hiring a lot of librarians for it.
Librarian tracers. Jess,
Yep.
are you gonna get a job as a tracer?
I probably not. Well, probably not.
She's a purple nurple expert.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Last week's show.
Hey, I know all the 90s, like, well, I guess people did that forever ago, but, you know, all those little funny things that your older brothers or sisters used to do, or you used to do on your younger siblings, or whatever. Yeah, I know all the names for those, because I was always picked on by my brother.
About 50% of the people from last week's show agreed that I called it a titty twister, and about 50% said it was a purple nurple. So we didn't get anywhere with that.
We need to
for the purpose of clarification. Very nice.
Right.
we need to put up a poll next time. We need to put up a poll.
So, are you ready for the controversy? Should we get into it?
Yeah. Yes.
So, I think we all agree that the cop in this situation is a horrible, horrible, bad thing and should be punished to the full extent of the law. In my opinion, the people who did not stop him from doing it. And so now the flip side is, remember we always say wait and see. There's another video that they didn't show us of them trying to put him in the car several times. And he threw himself on the ground. And so the autopsy now shows that he didn't die of suffocation, but because the cop was doing that to him is pretty much what sent his body into the shock. He had, I guess, some drugs that he was taking, and he had a pre-existing condition. So
yeah, methamphetamine.
That'll do it. Little crystal meth and some.
I'll do it every time.
Someone mentioned that when he was like on the bench and dropped a bag out of his hand.
And liquid heroin for an appetizer.
Yeah, you mix that kind of stuff, and then I don't know. I heard allegedly that he was on behavioral meds with all that, and those behavioral meds say do not mix. It's horrible to mix.
Do not smoke meth if you're on behavioral medicine.
Yeah, don't take bath salts and behavioral medicine. No.
So he probably was
not like one after the other.
At the end of the day, though, the cop did the wrong thing. He handled the situation wrong, and so did all the other cops watching. I do believe that. I do agree with that. I'm just sick and tired of hearing, save a life, kill a cop, all this other crap. Obviously, my brother's a cop, and he's out there protecting people and, working overtime now, dealing with the crowds, going to the riots and everything like that. And I fear for his life. He's a good person, deep down, a good, genuine person. He's a good cop. And I've seen so many cops, even Black American cops, and I actually watched another video about that, Eric, about the Black American versus African American thing. So thank you for that. Touching on that again.
No one in my home is from Africa. No one.
I know. Yeah. I don't even say American because we're all American.
Awesome, Jess. Thank you. Thank you.
I've always just said, hey, is my Black friend. And if that is wrong to say, then I'm sorry. I don't say this is my white American friend. This is my Indian American friend. I don't say any of that. But back on the subject, I'm just sick and tired of seeing all these people going after the cops, going after store owners for protecting their businesses. Yeah, people can rebuild and recover from it, like Target and Walmart and all those other huge businesses. But at the end of the day, when it's these poor store owners that literally saved up all of their life, Jeff, you're a business owner. You know what it takes to put in business, and it takes a lot of money to make money and to even start a business, to have licenses and all that. So it really is really saddening to me that people are doing that to other people.
And a lot of these businesses, the small businesses you're talking about, barely made it through COVID. They barely kept their doors open. They're ready to reopen, and then this happens. And it's just a shame. And, so people
Smash the window. That's great.
Eric, oh, there he goes.
Oh, he got you.
That's unfortunate. So
Yeah, what at the end of the day, Jeff, like tell me what your thoughts are on this. And
so people keep asking me, what's going on? What's going on? You know, is the world falling apart? Like what's going on? I said, they turned 20. That's what's going on. We've been warning since we started this show several years ago. Back when these kids were young, we said, you know, there's consequences to raising your children and raising them as your friend instead of your daughter or your son, and not teaching them to overcome adversity and not having the conversations, the deep conversations that it takes to develop that mind when it's young. Instead, the kids are eating bath salts. They were raised with school shootings. They were raised with video games that look as real as you could possibly be. So they're killing people in these video games every single day. That's in their brain. And now they're 20 and they want this. They want the aggression, and they want to go for it. So now that they're 20 years old and we want to say what happened, I'm like, well, everybody wants to blame someone else for society's problems. Nobody wants to look in the mirror and be like, yeah, as a society, we have single moms with 3 or 4 kids and 3 or 4 jobs, and nobody's raising them. And now they're 20, and we don't like the consequences to our decisions. That's my take on it.
I do agree partially with that, Jeff, especially, you know, we've talked about it so many times on different shows and everything too. Maybe they have a chemical imbalance or a personality disorder or something like that too. But I've even seen really well-raised, educated people and people that don't play video games or do drugs or any of that stuff still think on this mindset. And I feel like it is also, they're being brainwashed either from other influences, not by just TV or video games or friends or whatever. It could be the community they're in or the religion they follow or any of that. And hey, I'm all for having your own opinion, but at the end of the day, it's a huge divide now between our country. And yes, it's not just 20-year-olds either. I feel like I've seen 50-year-old women and men and people in their 70s, not a lot of those people, but a few, all different age range, race, sex, it doesn't matter, thinking that that's okay. So yes, I do think that is a huge part of it with what you said. But you know, stupidity and being naive doesn't discriminate either.
Yeah, I don't have much time for small-minded people. I see them too going on Facebook and saying this is what the cops deserve, or you know, we're back to take what's ours. I heard that they were talking about moving into the communities and take what's theirs. And then I saw a lot of people posting, come on in to our communities, and they've got assault rifles. So this brings back a conversation that the left-wing anti-gun people, I bet they're wishing they had a gun. You know, what happens with when these guys come bashing through your front window and you don't have a gun? You're dead. You're dead.
Literally stocked up on ammo last weekend. I'm a joke.
Me too.
Because
and I went and got another.
At this point, like, it's
You're dead, but not before you make a couple heads into canoes.
What?
All right, Eric, I got to mute you, buddy. We can't hear you.
You're frozen.
Okay. Eric's muted. But so, I mean, if it can't come to that. In the United States of America, we have to have our peace. As unfortunate as this is. And, you know, in my opinion, too, is we're getting there. You know, these kids that we're talking about and your friends, not your friends, people that you've seen that have been brainwashed, you know, they aren't raised with the word patience anymore. The reason we talked about in our last show, they couldn't go arrest this guy because they don't want him to get away. They have to do due diligence. I know everybody wants instant satisfaction these days. I get it. But, you know, from what I saw, what I've seen, and the numbers tell us, is that police brutality on blacks has gone way, way, way down and continues to go down. And there's tons of programs that they're working on trying to overcome this. And in my opinion, I think one of the programs needs to be, and maybe it's out there, I've always tried to put myself in somebody else's shoes. I think that these guys that are rioting and hate cops, they need to jump in the back seat and do a ride along with these cops one weekend in the inner city, Chicago, and these inner cities where they have to go into these
literally
hard,
anywhere.
hard neighborhoods and see what it's like to be a cop every single day. I mean, I see them out there. These people are spitting in their face. They're throwing bottles at them. And so the flip side is true. I think the cops need to then do a ride along with these guys that live in the hood and go see how they live and what they have to go through every day and how they feel that they don't have a chance, that they don't get hired for the job. They don't get paid the same rate. Like, have a cop put in an application and say that his name is Shaniqua and see that that application might be way more qualified than the other 300 applicants, but they get passed over because of their name. And this, I saw a whole study on this, that this is true, this happens. So, you know, it's...
Well, there's totally black oppression for sure. I'm not denying that at all. There really is. There's racial depression in this country. And we've, you know, I saw a quote the other day from Will Smith saying, it's not getting worse, it's just getting filmed. And it's just, it's so true. It's been around forever. It has gone down, believe it or not. We're not segregated in the streets anymore, you know? It's crazy. It has to stop at some point, but it's never going to be that way. Everyone's always at war. Do you ever go to a country where there's not any sort of discrimination at all towards anyone? No. It's not going to stop. Yes, we can go down in numbers and everything like that. But until people actually see where the sources are coming from and understand each other and where they're coming from, just like you said, Jeff, then people are always going to keep doing the same thing over and over. It's going to repeat itself over and over.
We say it a lot on this show that thinking is what people used to do. And again, people aren't raising their kids to think, to be smart. You know, the TVs and the news and the computers and everything is raising children now. I recently started dating a woman with 3 kids. And you don't know, I can't tell you how many times we have to completely stop what we're doing and because these precious moments come up, and I have to talk to them and see if they understand what is going on and understand what people are talking about. And we'll be watching a movie and I have to push pause and say, do you guys understand what happened in this movie? Do you guys understand what the symbolism is here? And what do you guys think about it? I'm constantly challenging their mind. And it hits me that there's so many conversations in a day that people need to have with their children, and they're just not having them. And then they turn 20. And I'm not just talking about what's going on right now in the streets. There's consequences to not raising our children. School shootings, you name it. Tide Pods. It's disgusting to me that people are just breeding and it's not a puppy dog, you guys. It's a very precious, the mind is a very, very precious thing. And if you can't raise a child, stop having them.
Yeah.
You need a license to drive, but anybody can breed.
Yep.
And it's disgusting to me. And then nobody wants to have that conversation, right? Because now we have to look in the mirror and be like, maybe I should do better. And people hate accountability. They weren't taught accountability, so they certainly don't want to feel like they're accountable for their kid throwing a brick through a window and stealing the Nikes that Eric was talking about out of the store.
Yep.
That's part your fault for not raising that child correctly.
They're extremely impressionable, good and bad. You're so right. I feel like all my values, and we've talked about this so many times, not all my values, but a very good chunk of them have come from my parents and how I was raised. And and I think we can all say that. We've all talked about it. But yeah, that's basically the bottom line is educate yourself. If you were not educated before, learn to do your research on both sides. If you can't be open-minded, don't even have an opinion on things. Yeah. You know, I've spoken to so many people that they're so, you know, they have the blinders on. They're like, no, this is how it is. Oh, can I actually just tell you my thoughts or how I feel, or can I give you some stuff to back it up so I can show you some articles or anything like that? It's just people are not educated enough. They don't have certain values, and they do not, they're very impressionable, and they weren't raised maybe the right way. You never know.
And I get it. Like, my father raised 5 kids by himself, and he tried to program us like robots. He raised us all the exact same, and he tried to teach us choice and consequences. He said the one thing that blows him out of the water is that, having that been said, all 5 of us are completely different of each other. None of us turned out the same. So you can't be there to force the decisions on your children once they're adults. You can only prepare them for that situation and hope that they make the right decision. But you have to know that this child is going to be an adult, and this child might end up being a cop. And this child might end up being in the streets with these riots. And you have to prepare them the best you can to make that right decision. You know, it's logic versus emotion. The emotion of that cop was so angry at this black guy for not cooperating that he put his knee in his neck and killed him. And I'll bet you he's going to sit there the rest of his life and wish that he could go back to that one tipping point and not do that. And, you know, the 20-year-old kid that got really mad at the cop and shot him in the back of the head, now he feels like he got even, right? No, he's going to sit in jail, and he's going to rot there, and he's going to wish that he could go back to that one point in time and not pull the trigger and not even go out that night like his mom told him to stay home. He's going to wish he stayed home the rest of his life. So we need to teach kids choice and consequences. We need to instill it in their minds that there are consequences to their bad decisions. I see these kids act up all the time, and the parents don't do anything to discipline their kids. And I just don't get it. And the society is paying the consequences of people not raising their kids. And that's not a black thing or a white thing or an Asian or Mexican or anything. This is a society that has come to this. And you know, we're using race as our excuse to have this discussion, but I'm glad that we're having this discussion for sure. So,
yeah, me too.
Jess, go have some kids.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
I'm getting up there.
Yeah, are you going to have kids?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Well, maybe not with what's going on now.
I know, right? It's unfortunate that we think that way. It's like, well, if I have kids, maybe I'll go live at the cabin in the woods, or where Eric is, up there where there's no reception.
Yeah. I've always wanted kids, but you know, unfortunately, I don't know at this point, because it's not because of the want, it's because of just everything else, you know.
It's hard. I mean, you almost think that it's selfish to have a child now. If you don't already have one, Eric's fortunate enough to already have had a child, but you and I don't have kids. And it's like, okay, well, should I have a kid? And then I start looking at the world and what's going on. I think, is it selfish of me to want to bring a child into this world? Like, is this the end? Like, you know, by the time Eric's son is old enough to have kids, what's the world going to look like? And, you know, hopefully it gets better. Hopefully things get better. And if it's going to get better, we always talk about solutions, right? Don't bring a problem to the table without a solution. And more than just raise your kids right, I think you need to raise your kids with love. We've lost the love, and I'm not a big religious guy, but, you know, we've lost faith in God and fear in God. You can just see it from watching these kids. The way they act is just insane. And, you know, I think we all want the same thing, right? We want freedom, and we want safety, and, you know, to feel like we can live our life without, I mean, that's the United States of America, is that this stuff was supposed to keep in other countries and not here on our turf. We're having war with each other. We're in a civil war. And it doesn't matter what topic you bring up. It's either Democrat or Republican. I mean, they fight like cats and dogs. It's like, oh, the quarter says tails. Oh, no, it should be heads. It should be heads. Okay, it's heads. No, it should be tails. Well, why? Because we're on this side. And it's just, there's no logic anymore. It's pure emotion. It's pure brainwash from the media. They tell you a little bit of a story, but they don't tell you all of a story. They don't tell you what's going on in other places. Like, they're focusing so hard. The coronavirus, where'd it go? It's gone. It's gone. It's not in the news, because that's how they manipulate. You know, Hillary Clinton had to testify on Obamagate. Like, most people don't know that because
Yes.
they're not
Yep.
telling the story. Joe Biden's in the middle of a huge sexual harassment case and nowhere to be heard. Nobody's talking about it because they don't want you to know.
It's all a distraction. I'm sorry, I'm gonna say it. It's all distraction. Like, all of the politics are, we are being distracted by media. Doesn't matter what it is. I studied media for a long time. I went to film school. I know all about media and propaganda and all that. And it's just funny because there's so many different things going on in the world, and a lot of people aren't knowing what's going on because of what's on TV and what's on social media and what's on your phone. They control everything. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah. And going back to the solutions, I want Black people and Asian people and Mexican people to get paid the same. Actually, I think Asian people probably make more than white people these days. But I want everybody to have an opportunity. I want them to feel that they have an opportunity. And in the inner cities, you know, they just don't. Unless they get out, you know, there are very few of them that have an opportunity because they don't know that they have an opportunity. They haven't been raised to overcome adversity. They haven't lost and lost and lost and then won. You know, sports taught me that. No matter how far you're down, you can always come back and win the game. I remember wrestling guys that I just couldn't get away from them. And they were racking up points, and I was running out of time, and I was going to lose if I didn't pin the guy. And somehow, some way, I finally get away and turn around and pin him, and I stand up and they raise your hand that you're the winner. That feeling, we need to experience that feeling. We need to learn to overcome adversity. It's a part of growing up. And again, it's between the ears that you learn to do this. It might be hard. You might have strikes against you. And by the way, if I did have kids, if I had Black kids, and I don't, they would not one bit of what's going on would go in their brain. They would not be allowed to think that because they're Black, that they don't have the chance to succeed in this country. I don't care. Even if it's true, I'm not going to let my kid believe it. I am not going to let him believe that. There's plenty, we just had a Black president, right? And there's plenty of Black people that make a lot of money. And that's what I would focus on with my young man or daughter. And so we all just want that freedom. And it's important that we have it and that we feel it. And I mean, for the first time, the Black unemployment was the best that we've ever seen. Like, you got to think that we are getting there as a country. And yeah, we need to plow through the people who act on racism. Here's another thing that's
not in a semi-truck.
Yeah.
Or maybe if they're standing in your way.
Wasn't that crazy?
I'm just kidding. It was a protesting joke. It wasn't funny.
So I'll bet that guy is upset about choice and consequences, right? His emotions got him. He had to react. These people are out there and I have to react and drive my truck through. Didn't hit anybody, I don't think, or hurt anyone or kill anyone. And they yanked him out and beat the tar out of him, and then he went to jail. And so again, choice and consequences, man.
I've seen multiple of those, yeah.
So I think our problem, and I've said this before when we have issues come up, racism's a problem, and it needs to be addressed, and I think it is addressed. But the problem is poverty. The biggest problem that we're facing is poverty. It's not Blacks and whites, because more white people are shot by cops than Blacks. So, and that's on an average. It's not just because there's more white people. So having that been said, just because they don't report it, just like the virus, it was just like the flu, right? And we said that on this show, and it turned out to be true. Just like that, the media reports it, so we're scared. And the media reports when a white cop shoots a Black guy, they report it like you wouldn't believe, right? We all see it on TV and they cover it. But, you know, tomorrow in Detroit, if a young white guy robs a store and has an issue with an officer and they shoot him and he's dead, nobody knows his name. Nobody marches in the streets. It's just another day. So I think we need to address racism, but I think we also need to address poverty, because there's Mexicans getting shot by cops. We don't know their names. But every time it's a black person, we know their name and we march in the street. So we got to be real careful of how they manipulate our emotions. Teach our children not to be manipulated. Don't be a sheep. Don't follow. Read, 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 read. Don't watch. Read and understand what's going on. Communicate. Talk to people. If you want a voice, start a show, a podcast like we do, and let your voice be heard. Start a following. Be a cop. Can you imagine if Kaepernick would have quit the NFL and went and become a cop in the inner city? He'd be the world's greatest hero. Instead of taking a knee and offending 50% and causing controversy, he would be the world's biggest hero. Or what if he went and joined the army? You know,
right.
You want to change this country, do something.
Yeah.
You know, that's my take on it.
I feel like we've touched on so much. But I think, what you said, I completely agree with. Poverty is a huge issue as well. And maybe that ties into it all, right?
We need to get in those inner cities and encourage people to do business in those inner cities. We need to protect those businesses, because from what I hear is people open a business and they riot and they loot and they steal it and burn it down, and it's hard to start a business. So we need to not make them pay taxes for 3 to 5 years while they get their business off the ground. Give them government assistance to build their business and build it the right way, and help have enough money to protect it with cameras and maybe bars on the windows or whatever it requires. But we need to get in there and create jobs, get people off of government funding. I think by giving people money to keep on having kids isn't the answer. If I were in charge, you'd get 2 kids max, and you get 2 years for each kid, and then that's it. You're on your own. So, but
I agree.
If they don't have a job, then, you know, where do we go? So
yeah,
there's got to be more programs. There's got to be more people doing things to spread the money. And I'm not by any means leaning towards socialism at all. Give them the opportunity to make their own money. Teach them how to budget their own money. These kids, I'm teaching these kids, of the girl I'm dating, how to budget money, how to make money, how to save money and invest money. And these kids will be so far ahead. By the time they're 20, they'll be so far ahead, just because of these small little lessons that
I love that. I love that. So
it's all, you said it earlier. You said get educated, right? Get educated on money. Let's get in there and let's teach these people in the inner cities, white, black, Mexican, Chinese, I don't care. Let's teach them how to live a nice life. We're in the United States of America, man. Nobody should struggle. Nobody.
Yeah.
But
one last thing for me. I love America. We are a free country. Yes, we have our non-freedoms. Yes. But compared to so many other countries, look how free we are. And I really hope that the people that are saying they cannot stand this country, they hate America, they hate this, they hate that, leave. Just leave then. Why are you here? If you hate it, leave.
Yeah.
That's nice. And we all need to take a stand. We all need to do our part. We can talk about it all we want, but if you're not voting, yes, people are voting. If you're not actually voting to take a stand and for the right reason, be educated on what you're voting on. Don't just vote because you're out of emotion, but actually read. Like, educate yourself and vote, and, do your part in society, whether it's volunteering or, you can go out and protest, whatever you want, but just do something about it. You can talk all you want. We can talk all we want, but if we're not actually doing something, none of us means anything.
That's right. So what you can do right here, right now, is you can like this channel, you can subscribe to it, and you can share it with all the people out there that need to hear it. We'll finish up. We'll film again in a couple days when Eric gets back from hanging out in the woods up there in Zion, in the mountains, wherever he is. Have fun, Eric. I know you have a lot to say about this, and so I can't wait to hear it. Guys, please like and share. And we like last show, I saw a lot of comments. We like the comments, good or bad. Everybody has an opinion.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, keep the conversation going. Thanks for watching the American Mind Grind, and we'll see you next week. Have fun, Eric. Be safe.